Hey friends, it's Kay. Welcome back to my channel and happy 2021. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe it's 2021. 2020 went on forever, I feel like, and I'm sure a lot of you felt that way too. So here's to 2021 being amazing, giving us lots of new opportunities and just good vibes all the way. So for my first video of this new year, I decided to do my top 10 books of 2020. So we're going to work backwards from 10 to my top book of the year. So number 10 is Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. Now actually, I rated this book 4 stars. I highly enjoyed it and it gave me my first kind of reading hangover, if you will, of the year. So I was loving that. Honestly, what made Chain of Gold so good and so special to me were the characters. I actually did enjoy the plot too, but all the characters honestly were what drove this whole book, and I just loved them. I loved Lucy, I loved Matthew, I loved James, and I cannot wait for Chain of Iron to come out so I can read more about them and follow their journey. So Chain of Gold is the newest book, well, one of the newest books in the newest series of The Last Hours, which is Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunter universe, and this one is taking place with the kids of the Infernal Devices. So it's Lucy, James, and all their friends, and they have been in peace for a little while, but now there are new dangers lurking, including demons who can be in the sunlight, and I really enjoyed this. I liked the fight scenes of this book a lot too, and the covers are gorgeous. And it was really fun to see a new side of my favorite characters from the Infernal Devices. So yes, number 10 was Chain of Gold. Now on to number 9, and this was by far my most surprising book of 2020. I did not expect to love it near as much when I went into it, and that is The Final Six by Alexandra Monir. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that name. So The Final Six is, I have honestly never heard anyone talk about The Final Six, but it was on my physical TBR shelf forever, and I decided to pick it up for a readathon, and it was like one of the only books of that readathon I completed, but I fell in love with the story. So this is a contemporary book about what happens when carbon emission and global warming have desecrated half of the world. Oceans have risen and destroyed major countries, including Italy. And now the last hope is to send 6 prodigy teenagers to a Jupiter's moon, Europa, in order to start a new life for humanity. So this book is following Leo and Noemi, and Leo is from Italy, so his whole family has been destroyed by these catastrophe events, but Noemi's family is very much intact, and she is very reluctant to be chosen to compete for the Final Six title. Noemi is also very suspicious of this mission, and she is trying to uncover what is really going on and what happened to a previous crash that the last time they tried to do this mission. So, and as the two of them end up working together to try to uncover more of the secrets, and this book left off on such a cliffhanger. And I cannot believe I haven't picked up the second book yet, but you know, life happens. But The Life Below, which is the second book in this duology, is very high on my list for 2021, so I cannot wait to continue with it. I loved reading about a technology-savvy girl, and it was just really nice. I loved this book, and I loved meeting these characters, and I cannot wait to continue. So for my number 8 pick of favorite books for 2020 is very mixed reviews. I have seen so many booktubers hate this book, and I've not seen near as many love it, but that's okay. I have an unpopular opinion, but The Shadows Between Us was my number 8 pick for top books of 2020. I genuinely loved reading the story, and I went along fine with the plot points, and I ended up really liking reading about the characters. So I had such a fun time reading this book. I gave it a 4.5 star, so I am not complaining, and I really enjoyed this book. So this book is about our main character, Alexandra, and she is out to destroy the Shadow King and take power for herself. She is a very ambitious main character, and I really enjoyed reading about her. Others found her really annoying, but I didn't. I really enjoyed reading from her point of view, honestly. So she is out to marry the kind of ruler of her land, and that is the Shadow King, a very reclusive, mysterious leader no one knows much about, nor his weaknesses. So she is out to marry him and can kill him and take the power for herself. And as this is happening, she ends up developing a sort of friendship and eventually falling for him. And as other attempts are made on his life, she finds herself trying to protect him. And it is a dark journey, and it was a lot of fun. I loved it, and yes, I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars, and it was my number 8 pick for 2020. And number 7, I am so happy to be able to talk about it because it was one of my most anticipated releases from the front half of the year, and I finally got to it last month in December, and that is Seasons of the Storm by Elle Cosimano. Oh my god, you guys, this was the best found family I have ever read about. Went into it not expecting to love them near as much as I ended up, and the relationships were amazing. The elemental magic was stunning, and I loved the plot, road trip vibes. It was so much fun to read about. I highly recommend this book if you have not picked it up yet. So Seasons of the Storm is about Jack, who is a winter, and he was given the choice on his deathbed to live forever as a winter or die. And you can see he chose to live as we all would. And he ends up falling for a spring who is Fleur. However, their romance is strictly forbidden, and they could be purged, which is a final death where they're wiped from existence. And Fleur is already on the edge of that purge because it kind of works like a competition between the different seasons, and if you don't have a certain amount of kills, you will be purged. And that was so cool to read about. This kind of gave me Hunger Games-esque vibes for some reason, and I loved it. So Jack is now determined to save Fleur by breaking out of this impossible fortress, so reverse Six of Crows heist. And along the way, he's going to have Julio and Amber, who are his fall and summer of his rotation, help him out. And it is a road trip, dangerous, high-stakes journey, and I loved every second of it. And the found family between these four is immaculate. I cannot recommend this book enough. Going all the way back to March, the beginning of quarantine, for my number 6 pick, and that is the conclusion of the Renegades trilogy, Supernova by Marissa Meyer. This book was amazing, the best conclusion I could have asked for to one of my favorite book series. I loved it. The fight scenes, oh my god, you guys, this book was amazing. So I cannot spoil much of this because it is the conclusion to the trilogy, but I was super happy with it. So this series is about Nova, whose parents are killed, and she blames the Renegades, which is the superhero government council running her city right now. And she is now raised by anarchists who are the villain group trying to overthrow the Renegades. So she is sent undercover into the Renegades Training Center, where she meets Adrian, who is the son of 2 leaders of the Renegade Council. And she is infiltrating, living this double life. And as she goes, she starts to have conflicting feelings about her mission. And I love this series, you guys. It's dystopian superheroes. It's so cool. And there's really cool superpowers in this book that I never would have thought of prior to reading it. So I highly recommend this series, and Supernova was number 6 on my top 2020 reads. Now, I was not expecting to love this book near as much as I did, so my number 5 book was a very big surprise for me, but it really shouldn't have been because everything about it was right up my alley, but that is Geekerella. Now, this is a Comic-Con-esque cosplay retelling of Cinderella, and honestly, how could I not expect to love it as much as I did? I gave it 5 stars, and I'm so happy I read it last minute. So this book is about Elle, who is living with her awful stepmother and stepsisters, and she loves this TV show that's kind of similar to Star Wars and Star Trek. It's kind of a mixture of them. And her parents were big in the cosplay comic Exclusi-Con, which is Comic-Con pretty much. And she is determined to go win this cosplay contest. And on the flip side, she is not happy about the casting of this TV reboot. And it is starring this Darian. And flip to him, he is secretly a huge fan of this show, and he is giving it all he's got. He's so happy, but he can't really show he's a fanboy because his dad/manager says that will bring popularity down, which doesn't really make sense to me, but whatever. However, he and Elle end up striking up a conversation via text messages, and it's really cute. I loved it. 5 stars, and also, it was just a lot of fun. I read it in 2 sittings, which is insane for me, so highly recommend. And yeah, number 5. My number 4 book was my most anticipated release of 2020. I have had it on my release list since February, and I'm so happy I got to read it, and I literally finished it yesterday, which is the last day of 2020, so 5 stars. I'm so happy. And it was also the first book I ever annotated, and that is These Violent Delights by Gong. Oh my gosh, you guys. The writing, brilliant. The characters, brilliant. Everything, brilliant. I cannot even form words about how brilliant this is. So this book, in case you have not heard yet, is a 1920s fantastical element Romeo and Juliet retelling, and they are heirs of rival gangs running Shanghai, and show-stopping, you guys. Brilliant. And the concepts of this book blew my mind. They were so fascinating and so unique. I loved every second of it. Gong has such a cool writing style that at first I wasn't sure about, but then I fell in love with it and flew through this book, and I got to tab, so I'm very happy with it. And yes, if you have not picked this book up yet, please do. It is worth the hype. It deserves every bit of the hype, and I'm just so happy I got to finish it in 2020. These last 3 books, I don't think anyone is going to be shocked to see them. And the first, my number 30, my 3rd favorite book of 2020 is A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Brigid Kemmerer. This is number 2 in the Curse Breaker series, and A Vow So Bold and Deadly comes out at the end of the month, and I cannot wait. So this book, I'm not going to say too much about it, except we meet Leah Mara, who is one of my favorite characters written in YA right now, because she is bookish and smart and kind, and I just love her. And of course, Gray and Harper and Wren, love them. So Heart So Fierce and Broken is the continuation of this series, in which Harper, who is a girl from Washington, D.C. with cerebral palsy, sees Gray trying to abduct a girl, and she naturally goes after him with a crowbar, the beginning of a beautiful friendship. And she is whisked away to Emberfall, which is a different dimension of this world, where she meets Wren, who is cursed in his tower, and she ends up not being able to go home because she is stuck, and from there, friendships and romance bloom, and I love this Beauty and the Beast retelling series. It is so good, one of my favorites, and A Heart So Fierce and Broken continued on the beautiful path of hurting my heart, and I love this series. I really highly recommend it, and I cannot wait to finish this trilogy with A Vow So Bold and Deadly coming out at the end of January, so yes. Now my number 2 read that kept me up until midnight reading it one night, and I read it in literally like almost one sitting. American Royals by Katharine McGee. Where to begin? I feel like I rant about this book like every other video. American Royals is about the descendants of George Washington, where he has taken a crown instead of a presidency, and now 200 years later, Beatrice Washington is about to become the first Queen of America, and it's about her family and their messy relationships and friendships and chaos and Daphne's scheming. Hate her. American Royals was honestly just so much fun. It read like a TV show, and I loved it. I loved the plot. I loved the characters. I loved the relationships, and Katharine McGee writes such compelling ships that it was just so much fun, such a wild ride. I love this book, and I will always recommend it. So yeah, if you want a fun, fast-paced read, I highly recommend American Royals. And now, drumroll, my number 1 favorite book of 2020 that deserves everything and more, Love and Gelato by Jenna Welch. This book, I went in expecting a cute, fluffy contemporary, and I got so much more, and I loved every second of it. Love and Gelato is about Linda, and her mother dies from cancer with one wish, that she go live with her father, who has been not in her life ever. She's never met him, in Italy. And Linda is obviously very standoffish at first, but then she finds her mother's journal. She spent the summer in Italy, and Linda decides to follow that journal with the help of one of her classmates, Wren, and together they go through Italy, following the journal, trying to find the connections of why her parents had not seen each other or spoken or anything in the 16 years of her life. And from this, a new definition of found family, heartfelt messages, and just such an amazing message. And I was shocked, I cried, I laughed. It was such an amazing experience reading this book, and I cannot recommend it enough. And that is it, you guys. Those are my top 10 books of 2020. For all its faults, 2020 brought me so many new favorite books, and I'm very grateful for everything I read because all these books were such a fun time, and I really hope you have enjoyed. I really hope you will go out and pick up some of these amazing books. If you have read any of these books, let me know what you thought of them, and if you had any top books of 2020, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear what your favorite books were. If you liked this video, please consider hitting the subscribe button, and if you want to see more of me, my socials are linked below. I hope 2021 is amazing for all of you. Until next time, I'm Kay. Bye!